So I want to introduce you to one of the most low-key and humble guys you'll ever meet. His name's Amjad Stetieh of Sheer Brilliance Hair Studio. Now, I was lucky enough to be in the barber chair right beside him for years, and throughout this time, I got to ask him some questions. And through the wisdom he shared, I was lucky enough to implement it in my daily life, and I hope he's able to share some of that with you in this episode. So this is another episode of 100 Ways to Make 100K, and I'm honored to introduce Amjad from Sheer Brilliance. Hey there, how's it going?
Good, can't complain.
That's awesome, man. What was your name?
My name is Amjad. I'm the owner, founder of Sheer Brilliance Hair Studio.
That's really cool. So Amjad, I got a big question for you.
Yes, sir.
Do you remember the first time you made 100 grand in a year?
The first time I made 100 grand in the year, probably around 21.
You were 21 or you were 21 years old?
I was 21 years old.
Holy, okay. What were you doing at the time?
Just cutting hair.
Okay, so how did you get into that?
I actually was been cutting hair since I was like 16 years old. I always actually had an interest for it. One day I just walked into the barber shop to get a haircut, and I saw one of my boys who was training there. So I just had to start training.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And where in the world were you at the time? Was this in Toronto or?
No, yeah, we're in Ajax. So,
Okay.
Outskirts of Toronto.
And what was the name of the shop that you got started in?
That shop was called Prominence.
Okay.
Yeah.
Back in the day. Eh?
Yeah. Well, it was actually B-Towns, but Prominence was a clothing store that was like a 2-in-1.
Jeez. Okay. So what was that process like of getting started as a hairstylist, getting started as a barber? Was it nerve-wracking at all? Like
No,
you just
actually.
walking in, you're like, yeah, I'm gonna do this.
Yeah. I mean, like I was just young and ambitious, man. Like I just wanted to, get something going. Like not many kids in high school are like looking to get, real wages. So it's something like, I was always an artist, right? I used to paint, I used to draw, I used to do all this stuff. I was good with my hands. I have like creative imagination. So like I wanted to be able to put that to work, and like barbering was something that I always looked at like an art, and I was always interested in it. It always like fascinated me. So I always said like, if I had the opportunity, I would definitely do it. So when I saw like, one of my schoolmates, like a friend of mine, was training there just randomly. He's like, I walked in. He's like, can I cut your hair? I'm like, what? So he's like, so yeah, I just let him, and I was just talking to him. I'm like, how did you start? He's like, well, I was cutting in my basement, and I asked him to start training me. So they just did. I'm like, that's all you have to do. So when he's like, yeah. So when he was done cutting, I'm like, could I do that? He's like, just talk to the owner. So that's what I did. I just talked to the owner, and I said, I want to learn.
And what did that owner say at the time? Was that not nerve-wracking? Like you're 16 years old. You're like,
well, I mean, what else are you gonna do?
Yeah.
I think I'm pretty practical. So like, what else are you gonna do? If you want a job, like you have to do what's mandatory, right? What's necessary. So I just talked to him, and he's like, you want to learn? And I'm like, yeah. So he's like, okay, just for the next like week or so, just come and watch. So that's what I did. Right. And then, yeah.
So from watching, then you just started cutting, and then I guess like you still cut to this day or what?
Yeah.
Interesting. So how many years has it been that you've been
22.
22 years in this business, man. And what you're saying, it takes maybe about 5 to get to your first 100, you said?
I was pretty close even before that, but like, maybe 21 is when I like really buckled down and took it a little more seriously. And mind you, like, I went to college after high school, so like I wasn't spending as much time in the shop. I went to school for for architectural technician. So then like by like age 21, I realized like I don't want to do that. So I just spent more time in the shop, so I was able to actually, grind it out.
Yeah. Now, did you have to do anything crazy at the shop, like any crazy like advertising techniques or like stuff that you made sure that your service was like, different than everyone's? Like, how did you differentiate yourself as a barber?
Well, I mean, like at that time there was no social media. Like Facebook had just surfaced at that time, so nobody was looking at it as like a advertising stream like that. At that time, it was just like to get in touch with your friends, share stories, all that, right? So what I personally did was whatever services weren't being like done at the shop where I was at, I would introduce.
Like what?
Like anything, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, at that time it was very, very basic time. So like people just, used to do like just basic fade line up just with like clippers and stuff. So like, I'd start reintroducing straight razor, which people weren't doing at that time. And then like I try all these fancy products, and like I was good at design, so like people would come for my designs. You know what I mean? And then like yo, one of the main things, to be honest, is I would tell people like yo, if you enjoy like your service, yo, tell your friends. And I'd make sure that by after every single service, I'd be like, yo, if you liked it, like yo, just do me a favor and just yo pay it forward, just one person, you know, just tell one friend, you know. And I'd make myself very very available, right? So I used to stay there till like at the shop almost every night till like 2 3 in the morning.
Wow.
Yeah,
Just like booking cuts or
yeah. Like, what
holy.
else? Like in my head, I'm like, yo, you got 24 hours. Might as well make the most of all those hours as much as possible, right? And like I had fun with what I was doing, so like it wasn't really work to me. It was more like, you know, you just hanging out, hustling, and you know,
Hanging out with your friends, making a bag at the same time.
exactly.
I hear that. So, do you remember your first 100 grand in a month?
um, so I opened up my shop when I was about 26 years old, and obviously the first couple of years was pretty difficult to get things going. But as the years went on, we opened up two more locations, and um, I want to say now that we have like a bunch of full shops, like the businesses in general, like every shop is a little bit different. So our smallest shop currently is our Oshawa location that has like 8 chairs, but they're expanding to another 12, so that's going to change drastically. But honestly, they're one of the busiest too, so those guys pump out a lot of cuts. um I want to say 2018.
Wow.
Yeah, 2018, 2019. Probably like 2019 is when we made it. Like there was the first time that like collectively the businesses made like 100 grand.
Congrats, man.
Yeah, yeah, thank you.
What did that feel like at the time? It must have been
Honestly,
crazy,
like
eh?
yo, because you see how I might have to think about it. I wasn't thinking about it. You know what I mean? Because like you know we're just operating and we just keep going. Like I like not necessarily focused on like just the dollar figure. Like we were more focused on like growing, right? So like I'm more zoned in on like growing the individual, right? And like growing the team and like growing the movement, right? So it starts just from like individual basis, right? So that's like how I think. And then I'm more like, okay, it's not that I'm not like it's not that I'm not aware of what the numbers are, but that's not usually my focus. So I couldn't even tell you exactly the first month because I don't even actually know. But now when I'm looking back at it, I'm like, I know that each one generates like, you know, 60, 70K a month, 40K a month. So I would say when all three shops were running and we were full, so that's probably around 2019, probably summer of 2019.
Congrats, man. That's awesome. So, what do you think the biggest differences are between the mentality of running a chair versus running a shop?
Well, a chair is very little responsibility on them, right? So you just got to make sure that like every week, like you just do your work and you pay for your rent. Um, but the shop is different, man. There's a lot of operation that is involved. You have to be careful with, you know, how we operate in the public eye because you know everybody wants to feel like they're welcome, like they're safe. You know what I mean? Like it's a good environment. So like you always have to be making sure that environment is a good place to go to. You know, the cleaning is your responsibility to make sure the place gets clean. You know, the guys have to be happy where they are too. So you know, you have to make sure that you know the guys are happy. Like that's the main thing, to be honest. Actually, yeah, that's probably the biggest thing is actually the people management, right? Like all the other stuff is like that's trivial, right? Like you just have to do it anyways.
So, what do you think like the biggest lesson in, I guess managing, not managing, but maybe leading people? Just your chair to how many? What would you say the total chair count is now?
Total chair count after this expansion will be 45. Yeah,
Holy.
45 chairs.
From one chair to 45, man. The 45 chair man.
Yeah.
What else you got going on these days, Amjad? What else you working on?
We also have an academy. So that one's Artisan Barber Academy. And that one we're gonna be launching starting next month.
And what does that do?
There's 3 workshops. to start right now, and then we're going to be working on some other stuff uh, to coincide with that as well. So basically, what we're doing is taking people who are interested in learning the barber business, or just want to pick up some extra skills. Um, we'll teach you the basics that you need to know, some little tricks and tips in the game, and there will be definitely some potential for job opportunity coming out of that as well.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And which part of the business are you most excited about these days, would you say? Like what, like you've been doing this for 20 plus years,
Yeah.
right? There's got to be some elements that like keep you, I guess, inspired.
Well,
And, because I know me, man, I got this squirrel syndrome, right? Every time I see something, I want to try it.
yeah.
But I heard something the other day talking about like finding that within your business. And I'm
Yeah.
kind of curious about what your thoughts are there.
Honestly, I love barbering, period, man. I love everything about it, to be honest, man. Like, I love the art of it. I love the conversation, you know what I mean, with my clients, with the rest of the guys at the shop. Like, um, it's just, it doesn't feel like work. Maybe after 18 hours a day, it feels like work, but like, you know.
Interesting. So if
Yeah,
you could go back to that 16-year-old Amjad, the one that
yeah,
just came back,
yeah,
or the one that just came into the store
yeah.
and said, I think I want to learn this, right? What advice would you have for him?
Don't wait. Even though I was pretty ambitious and I worked hard, I always worked hard. I was always pretty honest kid, and like I'm not afraid to put in those hours, and go through the learning process, and I'm open minded. But um, I was very curious about life, so that kind of like maybe held me back a little bit. But although like it's not something I regret either. But if I had focused, like completely focused from the very beginning, like the way I did when I was like my early 20s and after, I would have been a lot farther right now.
And what does farther look like? Like, what would you just define as, looking at like where you currently are, right? Like you got 45 chairs, dude. Like
Yeah.
what is farther to you?
I'll be honest, like I don't have necessarily a final destination, man. I'm more of like a journey guy, So like we would have had probably more expansion, or like I try to be a positive influence on people's lives, man. I hope I am, anyways, right? But like I try to make sure that like I've seen guys like come up in the shop and like have nothing, like barely, their skills are barely polished, slowly develop a clientele, and then they increase in their personality, they've grown more confident, they get married, they have kids, like this is like you literally see the growth, and like you're a part of it in one way or another, you know what I mean? So like that's the kind of stuff where like I definitely want to see people grow to be like good human beings that can provide for themselves and their families, and that can actually like use their ability to have critical thinking to to add to the world, right? So like that's kind of where I'm at. I mean, like, although like I do enjoy business, but like business is still a human experience, what I'm saying, even if it's through digital, right? But like you're still dealing with other human beings, so like people take away from the humanity when they're just like looking at it like it's just numbers, you know what I'm saying? And like that's, I mean, that works for a lot of people, a lot of people are happy with that. Me personally, I think that still it should be something that that should help like humanity, you know what I mean, in one way, shape, or form, or like it should help build people. And on top of that, like you don't know who you're gonna be in the presence of, right? Some of those people that came in, this like shy kid, or like gentleman who's like down and out, once they build themselves back up, they could do things much greater than I could, you know what I mean? And I would love to see that.
Beautiful. So, Amjad, it sounds like you do have a bunch of cool things going on from the academy, from the shops. Where can we learn more about you if we want to, follow along the journey?
You can follow my Instagram, which is at Sheer Brilliance, ShearBrilliance. There's also Sheer Brilliance Hair Studio, which is the handle for all the shops and anything that's going to be happening with us. And then there's a website, sheerbrilliance.ca. Yeah, those are the best places to find out for the meantime. Anyways.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for jumping on here and sharing some of your wisdom, man. We appreciate you.
No problem, man.
And we'll see you soon. Thanks so much for listening to another episode of 100 Ways to Make 100K. That was Amjad from Sheer Brilliance Hair Studio. Amjad, thanks so much for being a part of the show, man. We really appreciate you. Now, once again, I'm your host, Javon.ca, and why don't you share this episode with your barber? I think they'll get some value from it. So thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next episode. Peace.